True happiness comes from virtue and not from external things that are beyond our control. When we cling to the external world, we constantly put our own sense of satisfaction at constant risk. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus observed that people are overwhelmed and engulfed because they tend to care about too many things all the time. The remedy is not to feel nothing, not to care, or to possess nothing. Instead, it is that our life and happiness are not dependent on those external factors. What matters and what doesn't, according to Epictetus, is directly linked to how we position ourselves in the world. If we can concern ourselves with things within our control, we are in a position of strength. However, if we neglect these things and focus on what is beyond our control, we automatically put ourselves in a position of weakness. Especially when we cling to what is beyond our control, we set ourselves up for a life of suffering. Attachment extends to more things than we might realize and can determine the course of our lives. But what are the things we cling to? What are the sources of our attachment? And why is it better to let them go? This video explores Epictetus's philosophy and what we should focus on, according to him, to be happy and content. It also delves into what we should let go of and how we can achieve that. Remember, the key is in understanding what is within our control and what is not, and finding strength and fulfillment in the former while releasing attachment to the latter. But before we continue, it is very important that you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any knowledge. The power of choice. In a world full of timeless teachings, the wise words of Epictetus, conveyed through his discourses and Enchiridion written by his student Arrian, resonate as guides for achieving a state of satisfaction, contentment, and inner peace. They also speak to strengthening our minds against external circumstances that we often perceive as harmful. In the first chapter of the Discourses, Epictetus makes it clear that external circumstances can only harm us if we allow them to, meaning if we become attached to them. He gives an example of going into exile, stating that being exiled does not prevent him from going with a smile, being joyful, and feeling serene. However, if he had clung to the idea that exile is a great tragedy, or attached himself to his possessions and the people from whom he had been separated, he would have lived a true hell. Epictetus knew well that he couldn't choose whether he would be exiled or not, but it was in his hands to choose to be joyful and serene. Just like in life, what matters are our actions, and no one but ourselves can decide that. That's why he didn't care about being in exile, but rather how he would react to it. Another example in history is the psychiatrist and philosopher Viktor Frankl, who survived 3 years of imprisonment in various Nazi concentration camps. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he describes how Jewish prisoners became helpers to the prison guards, doing terrible things to their own people in exchange for food and better treatment. Frankl realized how people easily succumb to difficult circumstances and do anything to survive, including betrayal and mistreatment of others. But other individuals refused to let circumstances influence their values, as they continued acts of kindness and compassion. Even in extreme conditions, there were those who, after a day of almost slave-like labor and only a daily meal consisting of a piece of bread and a thin pea soup, would donate half or their entire bread to those who were more debilitated. Thus, the Nazis could imprison, torture, starve, and exterminate these people, but they couldn't conquer their souls and dominate each individual's power of choice. Of course, our difficulties are far from experiencing torture and slave labor. But if many people in those conditions could master their emotions and act guided by their character, it is possible for all of us. If we focus only on what we can control and let go of everything else, then nothing outside of us can harm us. Now the question arises, what exactly is within our control and what is not? Here is what Epictetus asserted in the first chapter of the Enchiridion. Some things are within our control, and others are not. Things within our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and in a word, all our own actions. Things not within our control are body, property, reputation, command, and in one word, all actions that are not our own. So simplifying, the external world is not within our control, but the way we choose to act and position ourselves in relation to the external world is within our control. Again, Epictetus doesn't encourage us to not care about anything and become soulless, Heartless individuals, or worse, pretend we have no emotions, hiding what we feel. On the contrary, living a good and moral life in accordance with nature is the primary goal of a Stoic, which is entirely within our control. But he encourages us not to cling to what is not within our control, as these things are fickle, weak, and unreliable. Yes, the charming and enticing external world of pleasures, sweet but insatiable, we often find interesting enough to pursue. Thus we desire what the world has to offer and cling to anything that captivates the mind and senses. But losing what we cling to hurts. The way we assess external things decides how they influence us, not the things themselves. If we attribute high value to something, we run the risk of developing a desire for it. And when we find or have what we desire, we feel fulfilled and full of joy, which is, of course, a wonderful feeling. But when somehow we don't get what we want, we don't feel so good. And so, we put our emotional state at the mercy of external circumstances. Unfortunately, what we gain and lose is in the hands of fortune. So, if we let our happiness depend on things not within our control, life controls how we feel. Therefore, it is crucial that we stop clinging to things we don't control if we want to develop a strong and stable sense of well-being. Fortunately, Epictetus provides us with situations and methods to do this, emphasizing the power of our faculty of reasoning and devaluing things outside of it. For this video, I've structured these things differently to facilitate understanding and how we can apply them in our lives, based on what Epictetus said beyond the first chapter of the Enchiridion, in 3 categories of things to which, from the Stoic perspective, it is better to relinquish control. 1. Do not cling to things, people, and power. In our human essence, there's a natural magnetism that leads us to connect and attach ourselves to people we resonate with and like, as well as to material objects. It's crucial to enjoy people and build relationships, and also to be careful with our possessions. The problem arises when we confuse genuine love with excessive attachment. An emotional bond can transform into a subtle web that imprisons you, the invisible shackles of attachment. This web can restrict your freedom, limit your behavior on any level, hinder your personal growth, and even lead to a dependent personality disorder. Often we spare no effort to keep the people we love in our lives, deeply enjoying the presence of someone we care about, but suffering agonizingly when that person exits our lives. Emotional attachment can be triggered by separation or the threat of separation, involving basic emotions of fear, anger, and sadness. And to avoid facing these feelings, many people remain in completely broken relationships. However, the cost of this choice is high, diminishing oneself, losing autonomy, giving up one's desires, and sacrificing happiness. Is this price worth paying? What's even more tragic is that often we suffer the loss of someone even before that loss occurs, a scenario that plays out in our imagination. An example of attachment is Rachel, who met her fiancé 3 years ago and had a seemingly perfect start to the relationship. As it had never worked out with anyone this way before, she began to fear the relationship's end and became excessively attached, doing everything to avoid a possible breakup. Little by little, Rachel gave up all the things she enjoyed and brought her satisfaction, concentrating her source of happiness solely on her relationship. Even in the midst of a crisis, she overlooks her partner's infidelities because she believes that the feeling of being loved and desired is worth the price. In some cases, the fear of loss or abandonment becomes an obsession, meaning our lives revolve around avoiding this separation. Often we submit ourselves to situations and relationships that completely nullify us throughout life, sacrificing our integrity. The same holds true for power. The ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus stated that power is insatiable, explaining the incessant desire for more power once it's acquired. Seeking power at any cost is the root of numerous and the greatest human miseries. People corrupted by power often engage in an unrestrained pursuit of having at any cost, where a lack of integrity becomes a bargaining chip to achieve and maintain their desires. When we reflect on power, we immediately think of politicians and rulers who shape history with their power narratives. However, in a more subtle manner, the same drive and desire for power are also present in our own lives. The need to impose our authority over others inevitably transforms into a game of control and domination. Often we want to have power over the actions and behavior of others and are reluctant to let go, leading only to stress and frustration. Consider the case of Jimmy, always viewed as an excellent colleague by everyone, and recently promoted to project manager due to his exceptional performance. With the new power, Jimmy gained autonomy to reorganize the team, demand results, and oversee everyone's performance. However, this triggered a drastic change in his behavior. Dismissals were made without consideration for individual circumstances, turning meetings that could have been opportunities for guidance and improvement into sessions that highlighted individual errors, showcasing his dominance over everyone. Fabio became entirely attached to the power of the position, completely changing his posture and respect for colleagues. But the irony of power lies in the fact that, although it suggests control, it is not within our control itself. It can be granted and withdrawn at any moment. In Jimmy's case, he may lose his job, and with it, the power he believes is under his control. But the way he acted with colleagues will always be remembered. If you've ever met a Jimmy, comment if you still recall that situation. Resisting the impermanent nature of existence is a foolish choice. If we want to live in accordance with nature, as the Stoics do, then we must adjust to transitoriness. Epictetus offers simple yet profound advice on how to approach life concerning objects, people, and power. He suggests viewing life as a banquet. Is something offered to you? Reach out and take your share with moderation. Does it pass by you? Do not impede it. Has it not arrived yet? Do not extend your desire there, but wait until it comes. Do this regarding children, a spouse, public positions, wealth, and you will eventually be a worthy partner at the banquets of the gods. Epictetus. Epictetus argues that by even rejecting things presented to us, we become not only partners at the banquets of the gods, but also in their domain. This points to living in harmony with nature rather than conflicting with it. Now, Epictetus aims to strengthen us against the pain of loss by changing our perceptions of the things we love. Instead of thinking we own something or have a right to something or someone, we can see everything we have as borrowed. I quote, "Never say about anything, 'I lost this,' but 'I returned it.' Is your child dead? He has been returned. Is your wife dead? She has been returned. Has your property been taken away? Well, hasn't that also been returned? But the one who took it is a bad person. What difference does it make to you who the giver designates to return it? While he gives it to you to possess, take care of it. But don't see it as your own, just as travelers view a hotel." Epictetus's perspective on things is not far from the truth. We own nothing except our faculty of reasoning, because if we possessed our children, spouses, properties, we couldn't lose them. Therefore, the idea that everything is borrowed aligns better with reality, as there is always a moment of return. Clinging to borrowed goods is a path to disillusionment. There's no issue with having things and even enjoying them, as long as we are willing to let go of them at any moment. 2. Do not cling to the opinions of others. In the past, being accepted was a factor that directly put our lives at risk. The greatest example in our history was Jesus, who, without committing a single sin or crime, was crucified. Currently, simply not being accepted or not being popular does not pose a direct threat to our lives. Nevertheless, we persist in caring about others' opinions, and what people think of us increasingly occupies a significant space in our lives. Many people move heaven and earth just to be accepted. The question is, why? Certainly, it's beneficial to reap the rewards when people have positive opinions about us. For example, when we are pleasant, it's easier to make friends. When we are attractive, it's easier to find a romantic partner. When we are seen as intelligent and capable, companies are more likely to hire us. However, Epictetus believes that all these external factors do not hold the same value as our peace of mind and integrity. He tells us, for instance, that we should not be saddened when not invited to a party, especially if we don't really like the host. Even if our ego desires an invitation, it wouldn't be good for our soul to attend an event where we don't genuinely feel we belong and align with the people present and the one who invited us. It's nice to be invited and remembered, to feel that people have consideration for us, but it's better to be where you don't have to pretend and don't have to sacrifice your integrity. Do not praise those you do not want to praise. Do not endure their behavior upon entering, regardless of the pleasure it may bring us. The continuous pursuit of being liked is exhausting. Praising people we don't want to praise, attending social gatherings we don't want to participate in. And for what? It does not contribute to our peace of mind, which cannot be achieved if we are constantly worried about others' opinions. Furthermore, Epictetus said that we should be mocked, ridiculed, and despised if that is the price we pay for peace of mind, freedom, and tranquility. We should be content to be considered foolish, and when someone speaks ill of us, we should say, "They don't know my other faults. Otherwise, they wouldn't have mentioned only these." At the end of the day, other people's opinions are beyond our control, but the extent to which they affect us is within our control. Some people may genuinely wish us well and be truthful when offering their opinions about us. We should respect and also understand that they speak from their own perspective, which may be entirely different from ours. However, there are also those who maliciously try to sabotage us. When this happens, don't be distracted by their darkness. Many people are envious. Many people enjoy seeing others fail. This has much more to do with their insecurities and deficiencies than with us. We always have to be vigilant in this situation. Do we cling to people's opinions and let them guide us, or do we take advantage of them and let go? It all comes down to skillfully handling the tool we've been given, which is our ability to form opinions about opinions. Remember that it's not the person uttering rude words or delivering an insult. It's how much you perceive it as offensive and insulting. Therefore, when someone provokes you, be certain that it's your own opinion that is provoking you. 3. Stop clinging to outcomes and ideas. We cannot truly live in the present if we are constantly trying to control what will happen in the future, or if we are reliving the past in the hope of changing it with the hundreds of possibilities of what we could have done differently. We can't have both. We can't deliver excellent work if we spend all our energy thinking, consumed by outcomes. Or even worse, if we imagine visions of failure that only feed the monsters of insecurity and procrastination, stealing our ability to deliver our best. The universe has subjected us without mercy. Trying to control it results in constant defeat, and challenging its uncompromising nature is a battle we will never win. The more we try, the more we fail. Epictetus, discussing the relationship between master and servant, emphasizes the importance of not clinging to the idea that a servant must always be obedient. People, he asserts, are complex beings who do not always act according to our desires. At the heart of this reflection is a dilemma. Should we wish that the servant is always good, or is it more important for the master to find happiness? We can't have both. Accepting that we won't always have control over others' actions is the tribute we pay for tranquility and peace of mind. We can apply this metaphor to all aspects of our lives. As Epictetus said, "Do not demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do, and you will be fine." Epictetus emphasizes that we cannot control the world, but we can control our attitude toward it. Someone may insult us, but they cannot control what we think or feel about it. Someone may take our belongings or steal our money, but they cannot control whether we become depressed about it. Our spouses may betray us, but it is up to us to determine the extent to which it affects us. Accepting the ups and downs of the world without clinging to them is the true triumph. Clutching is losing, but accepting and focusing on living well despite life's uncertainties is winning. And another thing that many people may not realize is the root of attachment. Attachment stems from lack. Attachment is fear. Fear of loss. In short, it's the fear of lack that leads to attachment. And this is where a deeper exercise comes in. Understanding what we believe is missing is different from what may truly be lacking. Our everyday attachments often lie on the surface. Sometimes you find yourself attached to a person because you think that if they are no longer there, love will be lacking. Or you cling to a bad habit without understanding why, when in reality it brings some secondary gain. You might also attach yourself to a desire, thinking that its fulfillment is the solution to your problems without seeing what you truly want to fulfill. Attaching to something in the external world can be due to the lack of something in the internal world. And this is very subtle. Attachment is sneaky. We cling to things, even those that harm us, simply because our minds prefer something familiar out of fear of the unknown. Attachment and fear always go hand in hand. Conduct a self-analysis of the things you are attached to and observe. We live attached to jobs that harm us, draining our vitality, in relationships that destroy more than they add, in friendships that bring us down, in bad habits that logically bring nothing positive, in ideas and opinions that no longer make any sense. in beliefs or traditions that have lost meaning. There is so much automatic attachment that it can be in everything around you. And if attachment comes from fear, have you ever thought about how many decisions and choices in your life you made with fear as the starting point? And how many fears you carry inside? And how much they really make sense to exist? Dealing with any attachment and fear requires looking inward. Self-knowledge. Most of the time, what causes attachments and fears are beliefs born from wounds that are not being seen, but are screaming for healing. And it's not attaching to anything external that will bring relief. It's by attaching to oneself that healing begins. By getting to know oneself on every level, we dissolve the ties of fear. We then build connections of love with ourselves and lead lighter, truly detached lives. Detachment doesn't mean you shouldn't possess anything. Rather, nothing should possess you. This is Epictetus's invitation for us to shape not the world around us, but our response to it. Life is a game, a total configuration. Don't give up. You'll manage, survive, work, do everything right. Improve yourself, then we can die. We were never made to win, just to play, so just play. And if you made it this far, comment, gratitude. Now to find out a little more about Stoicism, access our complete playlist that is appearing on your screen. Thanks for watching.